What just one tiny change in your daily routine could lead to massive, life-changing results? Welcome to Detailed Book Summaries, where we break down powerful books that help you grow smarter, stronger, and more successful. Today's video is all about Atomic Habits by James Clear, an easy and proven way to build good habits, break bad ones, and finally create the life you want. This book isn't just about productivity. It's about rewiring your identity one small action at a time. Before we dive in, hit subscribe to Detailed Book Summaries and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an insight that can reshape your future. Let's discover how tiny habits can lead to massive results. Chapter 1: The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. Change doesn't happen overnight, but we all secretly wish it did. We tell ourselves that with just enough willpower or motivation, we can suddenly flip a switch. We can go from lazy to disciplined, from unhealthy to fit, from scattered to focused. But James Clear wants us to slow down and understand something deeper. The problem isn't you. The problem is the system you're relying on. In Atomic Habits, Clear starts with truth most of us overlook. Small habits matter. Really small. So small they seem useless. But they compound. If you get just 1% better each day, it doesn't just add up, it multiplies. Over the course of a year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. But the flip side is just as brutal. Get 1% worse each day, and you won't just stay the same. You'll decline without noticing. That burger here, the missed workout there, the tiny indulgences repeated daily, they compound too, not in your favor. This is why real change often feels so frustrating. You're putting in effort. You're eating healthier. You're waking up earlier. But nothing seems to be happening. The scale doesn't budge. The bank account doesn't grow. The book doesn't write itself. So you give up. You think the effort isn't working. But what Clear explains is that results are often delayed. They're not linear. There's a valley, a long, quiet stretch of time when nothing seems to be improving. He calls it the valley of disappointment. Most people quit in that valley. They stop swinging the axe just before the tree is about to fall. Habits work like compound interest. They're boring at first, and the payoff is invisible. But over time, they build momentum. It's not about making a massive change all at once. It's about getting just slightly better, daily, consistently. And when the results come, they come all at once, like an overnight success that was years in the making. But here's the trap. We often focus too much on the end goal. We say we want to lose weight, write a book, build a business. We get caught up in outcomes. But outcomes don't change behavior. Systems do. A goal sets a direction, but it's your daily habits, your system. That actually gets you there. Everyone has similar goals, but not everyone has similar results. Why? Because the winners build better systems. Clear pushes us to think even deeper. Underneath your goals and your systems is your identity. And this is where most people completely miss the point. We think we need to change our behavior to get different results. But Clear argues we need to change our identity because behavior follows belief. If you want to stop smoking, don't just try to resist a cigarette. Become someone who doesn't smoke. If you want to be productive, don't just use a to-do list. Become someone who doesn't waste time. Your habits are votes for the type of person you believe you are. Every action either reinforces or erodes your identity. This is why New Year's resolutions rarely stick. We aim for big results, but we don't change how we see ourselves. We try to act like a healthy person without becoming one. We try to write like an author without seeing ourselves as writers. And that inner conflict eventually pulls us back to where we started. Real change is identity change. It's not about doing something. It's about becoming someone. There are 3 layers to this process. At the outer layer, there's the outcome, what you want to achieve. In the middle, there's the process, what you do to get there. And at the core, there's your identity, what you believe about yourself. Most people start from the outside and work in, but Clear flips it. Start with identity. Decide who you want to be. Then build the habits that align with that identity. Do the kinds of things a healthy person does. Make decisions a calm person would make. Take actions a focused person would take. Over time, those actions reinforce the belief, and the belief reinforces the action. It's a feedback loop. Every time you practice your habit, you reinforce the identity. You're not just brushing your teeth. You're being someone who takes care of their body. You're not just hitting the gym. You're being an athlete. You're not just reading. You're being a reader. This is how change becomes effortless. It's not forced. It's not powered by discipline alone. It's supported by who you believe you are. But remember, identity is not fixed. You don't have to be stuck with the version of yourself you've always been. You can become the kind of person who follows through, the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves, the kind of person who shows up even when they don't feel like it. It starts with a vote, one small action, and then another, and then another. Eventually, you believe it. You become it. James Clear's message in Chapter 1 is simple but powerful. If you want to build better habits, don't focus on changing what you do. Focus on changing who you are. And start small. Don't try to be perfect. Just aim for 1% better every day. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. This is the quiet force behind every transformation story. This is the real power of atomic habits. Chapter 2, How Your Habits Shape Your Identity and Vice Versa. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. This is the core idea that James Clear continues to hammer in Chapter 2. We tend to think of habits as actions that help us reach a goal, but they're more than that. They're the building blocks of our identity. And every small habit you perform is not just something you do, it's something you're becoming. Think of it like this. You want to quit smoking. So you say, I'm trying to quit. But what you're really saying is, I still see myself as a smoker, just one who's trying to behave differently. That's not real change. Real change is saying, I'm not a smoker. The difference may seem small, but it's everything. One statement focuses on the behavior. The other one reshapes the identity. The most effective way to change your habits is not to focus on what you want to achieve. It's to focus on who you wish to become. If you focus only on outcomes, you're stuck measuring yourself against the finish line. But if you focus on identity, every small step forward becomes a win. You're no longer running to reach a place. You're proving to yourself that you already belong there. Clear wants you to stop asking, what do I want to achieve? And start asking, who is the type of person I want to become? Because once you're clear on that, the path becomes easier. Let's say you want to get in shape. Don't just aim to lose 20 pounds. Aim to become the kind of person who never misses a workout. The weight loss will follow as a natural byproduct. Or maybe you want to write a book. Don't just focus on the number of pages. Focus on becoming a writer. And how do you do that? By writing every day, even if it's just a sentence. Because writers write. The feedback loop is everything. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. When you write every day, you start to believe you're a writer. When you read consistently, you begin to believe you're a reader. When you help others without expecting anything in return, you begin to see yourself as generous. The more you act like the person you want to become, the more you believe it. And the more you believe it, the easier it becomes to act in alignment with that identity. But let's flip the coin for a second. This loop works both ways. Bad habits reinforce negative identities. Every time you skip the gym, you cast a vote for being someone who gives up easily. Every time you snooze your alarm, you reinforce a belief that you lack discipline. These aren't just actions. They're messages you're sending to yourself about who you are, and the mind is always listening. So here's the challenge. Be mindful of the identity you're building with your habits. Don't just ask whether a habit is getting you results. Ask what kind of person that habit is turning you into, because every small choice matters. And identity isn't something that arrives one day when the goal is achieved. It's something that's shaped in real time, in the tiny decisions you make when no one is watching. Clear doesn't suggest you need to become someone else entirely. In fact, he believes the best identities are built by editing rather than reinventing. You're not trying to fake a new version of yourself. You're revealing who you've always wanted to be. The person you are capable of becoming is already inside you. Your job is to strip away the layers of doubt and inconsistency and to reinforce the traits you admire through action, one habit at a time. So, how do you do that practically? Start small. Choose habits that are easy enough to maintain and align with the person you want to be. If you want to be someone who's calm and centered, maybe you meditate for 2 minutes each morning. That might feel too easy, but that's the point. You're casting votes for being a calm person. You're reinforcing the identity in a sustainable way. And don't underestimate the power of consistency. A small habit done consistently is far more effective than a big habit done occasionally. It's not the intensity that makes the biggest impact, it's the repetition. The real magic of atomic habits is not in their size, but in their frequency. They stick because they're simple, and they work because they shift how you see yourself. By the end of Chapter 2, Clear wants you to walk away with one simple idea burning in your brain. True behavior change is identity change. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your system is only as strong as the identity it's built upon. If you want to create lasting habits, stop chasing outcomes and start becoming the type of person who achieves those outcomes effortlessly, because it's just who you are. Chapter 3, How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. James Clear doesn't just want you to understand habits. He wants you to master them. And in Chapter 3, he lays out the framework for how habits actually work. It's not guesswork. It's not motivational fluff. It's a system. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Every habit you have, good or bad, follows the same 4-step cycle. Cue, craving, response, and reward. This is the backbone of behavior. You might not consciously notice it happening, but it runs your day, from brushing your teeth in the morning to doom scrolling Instagram at midnight. Let's break it down. It all starts with a cue, some kind of trigger that tells your brain it's time to act. Maybe it's your phone buzzing. Maybe it's the smell of coffee. Maybe it's walking into your kitchen and seeing the snack cupboard. The cue grabs your attention. Then comes the craving, the motivation behind the behavior. You're not actually addicted to Instagram. You're craving a sense of connection, entertainment, or distraction. You're not obsessed with potato chips. You're craving comfort, flavor, and a dopamine hit. Every habit is driven by a desire to change your internal state. We don't crave the habit. We crave the feeling it gives us. Next is the response, the actual behavior you perform. This could be opening your phone, pouring the coffee, reaching for the chips. And finally, there's a reward, the satisfying feeling you get after the behavior. The reward teaches your brain that the habit was worth remembering, reinforcing the loop and making it more likely you'll do it again. Cue, craving, response, reward. That's the habit loop. And once you see it, you start to realize habits aren't random. They're engineered. And that means you can re-engineer them. Clear takes it a step further by turning this loop into a practical game plan. He gives you 4 laws of behavior change, each one tied to a stage of the habit loop. The first law is make it obvious. If you want to build a good habit, you need to bring the cue into plain sight. Want to remember to take your vitamins? Put the bottle next to your toothbrush. Want to start journaling? Leave your notebook on your pillow. The more obvious the cue, the more likely you are to act. The second law is make it attractive. If you dread a habit, you won't stick with it. But if you pair it with something you enjoy, like listening to your favorite podcast while going for a walk, you create what Clear calls temptation bundling. You turn the habit into something your brain actually looks forward to. The third law is make it easy. This one hits hard. We think success comes from big effort, but Clear flips that idea. He says success comes from reducing friction. Don't try to read a book a week. Start with 1 page a day. Don't aim for a full workout. Start with 5 push-ups. It's better to do something small and consistent than to plan something big and never start. The easier it is, the more likely it is to happen. The fourth law is make it satisfying. Your brain needs a reason to want to repeat the habit. That's why immediate rewards matter so much. If you save money, track it on a visual chart. If you drink water instead of soda, check off a box. Give your brain the feedback it craves. The more satisfying the reward, the stronger the habit becomes. Now, here's the kicker. These same laws can work in reverse to help you break bad habits. Want to quit a bad habit? Then Make it invisible, remove the cue. Make it unattractive, reframe your mindset. Make it difficult, increase friction. And make it unsatisfying, add accountability. For example, if you're trying to stop scrolling your phone before bed, you can leave your phone in another room, make it invisible. Remind yourself how drained you feel the next day. Make it unattractive. Put a password on distracting apps, make it difficult, and ask a friend to check on your screen time. Make it unsatisfying. That's the framework. For laws, for levers you can pull at any time to shape your habits intentionally. Good or bad, your habits are not set in stone. They're built by design or by default. By the end of Chapter 3, Clear's message is clear. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If you want to change your life, change your habits. If you want to change your habits, follow the system. You don't need more motivation. You need better structure. And now you have the blueprint. Chapter 4, The Man Who Didn't Look Right. James Clear opens Chapter 4 with a gripping story. A woman walks into a hospital, looks at her husband, and tells the staff, something's off. He doesn't look right. The doctors examine him, run tests, and find nothing. But she insists something isn't right. Hours later, he suffers a major medical emergency that proves she was right all along. The point Clear makes here is powerful. Our brains are pattern recognition machines. We are constantly scanning, sensing, and adjusting based on small cues in our environment, even when we don't realize it. This chapter is all about the first law of behavior change. Make it obvious. It sounds simple, but it runs deep. The woman in the story didn't need a doctor's chart. She just knew. She had seen her husband every day, and something subtle was off. That's how habits work. They begin with cues, tiny signals your brain recognizes before you even think about it. Clear explains that our habits are basically autopilot reactions to cues around us. You don't consciously think, oh, I'm stressed. I should bite my nails now. Your brain simply recognizes a pattern, connects it to a craving, and initiates a response. This is why awareness is everything. You can't change a habit if you're not even aware you're doing it. Most people try to change their habits without identifying the cues that drive them. That's like trying to cut down a tree without knowing where the roots are. If you want to build better habits, the first step is becoming aware of what's already there. And that's where Clear introduces a practical tool, the habit scorecard. The habit scorecard is brutally simple. You write down everything you do in a typical day, from waking up to brushing your teeth to checking your phone. Then, you mark each one as a good habit, a bad habit, or a neutral one. It's not about judging yourself. It's about noticing. When you bring your habits into the light, you give yourself the power to change them. Another tool Clear introduces is implementation intention. It's a fancy phrase for a straightforward idea. Decide in advance when and where you'll do a habit. Don't just say, I want to work out more. Say, I will go for a run at 6 a.m. in the park. The clearer the plan, the less friction you'll face. Vague intentions lead to vague actions. Specific plans drive specific behaviors. But he doesn't stop there. He goes even deeper with the concept of habit stacking. This is where things start to feel like a cheat code. Habit stacking is all about attaching a new habit to an existing one. You use something you already do as the cue for the habit you want to build. For example, after I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or after I pour my morning coffee, I will write one sentence in my journal. You're not trying to build a habit from scratch. You're piggybacking on something already wired into your brain. And the beauty of habit stacking is that it feels natural. It doesn't disrupt your day. It folds seamlessly into what you're already doing. When you make your cues obvious and build them into your environment, your habits stop being a fight. They become second nature. Clear also touches on environment design, which is huge. He says if you want better habits, don't rely on willpower. Change your surroundings. Want to read more? Put a book on your pillow. Want to eat healthier? Put fruit on the counter and hide the junk food. Your environment should make the cues for good habits obvious and make bad habits harder to access. Think about it. Your behavior is often shaped more by your surroundings than by your self-control. If your phone is the first thing you see in the morning, you'll reach for it. If the remote is on the couch, you'll probably turn on the TV. But if your sneakers are by the door, going for a walk becomes an easy option. Clear's message is simple but strong. Don't expect to change your habits in a toxic environment. Optimize your space for success. By the end of Chapter 4, it's clear that awareness is the first step toward change. You can't improve a habit you haven't noticed. You can't create a better routine if you don't know what's driving the old one. The first law, make it obvious, is about bringing the invisible into focus. Once you do, you take back control from the autopilot and start living with intention. Chapter 5, the best way to start a new habit. In Chapter 5, James Clear dives into a deceptively simple truth. Starting a new habit doesn't have to be complicated or intimidating. In fact, the best way to get going is to make it ridiculously easy. Clear calls this the 2-minute rule, and it's a game changer. The 2-minute rule says this: when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The idea is to shrink any habit down to its simplest, most manageable form so it feels effortless. Want to start reading more? Read 1 page. Want to exercise? Do just 2 minutes of stretching or walking. Want to journal? Write 1 sentence. By starting small, you avoid the overwhelming feeling that often kills motivation before you even begin. Clear points out that once you start, momentum kicks in. 2 minutes can turn into 10, and 10 can turn into 30. It's the gateway to a new routine. But if you try to start with a massive commitment, you risk burnout or procrastination. So don't think about building a habit. Think about building a habit of showing up. The rest will follow. He also explains why this works with human psychology. When a task feels easy, you're more likely to do it because it doesn't trigger resistance. The brain hates complexity and effort. So reducing the barrier to entry helps you overcome the inertia of inaction. Clear connects the 2-minute rule back to his 4 laws of behavior change, showing how making a habit easy creates a positive feedback loop. When the habit feels achievable, it becomes attractive. When you do it consistently, it becomes satisfying. You're rewiring your brain to crave the new behavior instead of avoiding it. But this chapter isn't just about starting small. It's about building identity through habits. Clear explains that the real power of habits isn't in the outcome. They're in the process of becoming the person you want to be. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. When you read, you become a reader. When you exercise, you become an athlete. When you write, you become a writer. This shift to identity-based habits flips the traditional goal-setting model on its head. Instead of saying, I want to lose 20 pounds, say, I'm someone who takes care of my health. Instead of, I want to write a book, say, I'm a writer. Your habits then become a reflection of your self-image, which makes them more powerful and sustainable. Clear drives this home with the idea that real change comes from focusing on who you want to become, not just what you want to achieve. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. Habits shape identity, and identity shapes habits. It's a continuous loop, but it starts with small, easy wins. By the end of Chapter 5, it's clear that success doesn't require massive overhauls or willpower. It's about breaking habits down into tiny pieces and aligning them with the person you want to be. Start small, be consistent, build identity. That's the winning formula. Chapter 6, motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Chapter 6 challenges a common belief that motivation is the key to forming good habits. James Clear starts by pointing out a harsh reality. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Sometimes you feel motivated and ready to tackle your goals. Other times, you just don't. So, relying on motivation alone to build new habits is a setup for failure. Instead, Clear shifts the focus to something more dependable, your environment. He argues that the environment you live and work in shapes your behavior far more than your motivation does. Your surroundings contain the cues that trigger your habits, and these cues often operate below your awareness. To illustrate this, Clear shares examples of people who drastically change their behavior simply by altering their environment. One classic story is about smokers who quit after moving to a new city where their usual triggers weren't present. Another example is people who started eating healthier when they removed junk food from their kitchens. Clear explains that small tweaks in your environment can make good habits obvious and easy, while making bad habits invisible and hard. If you want to read more, put books where you'll see them. If you want to watch less TV, unplug it or move the remote out of reach. One key insight is that environment design isn't about willpower. Willpower is limited and drains quickly, especially under stress or fatigue. Environment design works by reducing the need for willpower altogether. It nudges you toward better decisions automatically. Clear also discusses how technology and modern life make this especially important. Our phones, apps, and social media are designed to capture our attention. Without a well-designed environment, it's easy to fall into bad habits like endless scrolling or binge watching. To take control, Clear recommends consciously shaping your space and routines. This might mean creating friction for bad habits, like requiring yourself to put on shoes before you get your phone, or setting up pathways for good habits, like leaving your workout clothes ready beside your bed. At its core, this chapter is a reminder that motivation is not the master key. Instead, you become the architect of your habits when you design your environment thoughtfully. The better your environment supports your goals, the less you have to rely on fleeting motivation. By the end of Chapter 6, the message is clear. If you want to build lasting habits, don't wait to feel motivated. Change your environment to make success easier and failure harder. Control your space, and you control your habits. Chapter 7, The Secret to Self-Control. James Clear opens Chapter 7 with a bold statement. Self-control is overrated. For years, we believe that people who succeed with habits simply have more willpower, more discipline, or more grit. But Clear turns that myth on its head. He argues that the people who seem to have strong self-control are actually just better at avoiding temptation altogether, rather than constantly resisting bad habits. Successful people create environments where those temptations rarely appear. If you're not surrounded by cookies, you won't eat them. If you don't see the remote, you probably won't turn on the TV. Self-control, in that sense, isn't about being stronger. It's about being smarter. Clear dives deeper into the science behind this. Habits are influenced heavily by cues, those tiny triggers that prompt your brain to take action. If you're exposed to a cue for a bad habit, resisting it becomes a battle. The longer you fight it, the more mental energy you burn. Eventually, your willpower gives out and you give in. But if you can remove the cue in the first place, you eliminate the fight entirely. This is where Clear's earlier message comes full circle. In Chapter 6, he stressed how environment shapes behavior. Chapter 7 builds on that by revealing how the absence of negative cues is just as important as the presence of positive ones. You're not lazy or weak-willed because you fall into bad habits. You're just caught in an environment designed to make failure easy. Clear gives practical examples. If you want to use your phone less, turn off notifications or delete distracting apps. If you want to drink less alcohol, stop keeping it in the house. If you want to stop checking email every 5 minutes, log out of your inbox after each session. The fewer prompts you encounter, the fewer temptations you need to resist. He also highlights a key truth. The more you're exposed to behavior, the more normal it feels. That's why your social environment matters too. If everyone around you is eating healthy, exercising, or reading, those habits feel more natural to adopt. On the flip side, if everyone's glued to their phones or gossiping all day, it's harder to break away from that rhythm. The bottom line? Self-control is not a heroic act of willpower. It's about designing a life that makes the right choices easier and the wrong ones harder. Want to master your habits? Don't fight temptation. Avoid it. Build a world around you that aligns with who you want to become. By the end of Chapter 7, Clear makes it clear that the best self-control is often invisible. It's not about gritting your teeth. It's about never having to. That's the power of atomic habits. Small changes that lead to massive transformation. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Which habit are you going to start building today? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your action step. If this video helped you, like it, share it, and subscribe to Detailed Book Summaries for more breakthrough ideas from the world's most life-changing books. Your transformation starts one tiny habit at a time. See you in the next one.